so many people feel like flipping homes is something that anyone can do because it's on TV, and they say how much you can make and this and that. And honestly, if you get right down to it, you can make money off flips. Yep. But don't think the very first home you buy, you're going to get rich off of, because that's normally not how it works.
This is the Contractor Files Podcast. Your hosts, Ethan McNeil and Trent Keith, take a deep dive into the construction and remodeling industry to uncover keys to success and pitfalls to avoid.
Hello and welcome to episode 15 of the Contractor Files.
Hello everyone, I'm Trent Keith.
Yep, I'm Ethan McNeil.
And we are back again.
Yeah, we had a little break there.
That's right.
You didn't, the viewer, but we did.
That's right. The Contractor Files do take holidays off, right?
Yeah, we took the holidays off. And a few extra.
That's right. What are we talking about today? House flipping?
Yep, today we're going to talk about house flipping.
There you go.
The ins and outs.
Ins and outs?
And our experience in it.
There you go.
Mostly Trent's experience in it.
I don't know. We both had a lot of experience with flipping over the years. And I would say start in the summer, not in the middle of winter. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, true. But I was actually going to say one of the things that could help you be a little bit, like if you're slow in the winter, is to flip a house. But
yeah. No, that's a good idea. I'm just thinking if I'm the one doing it, I'd rather do the outside stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Your guys won't like that you're working on the house outside. Yeah.
So actually, that didn't mean anything. I was just saying personal preference.
I think house flipping is interesting because with HGTV and so many even YouTubers and stuff, house flipping has become almost like this that's been put on a pedestal of this is the end all be all of living and enjoying life. And there is a lot of house flipping that is not enjoyable. And if you're thinking about getting into house flipping, or you're going to find out pretty quickly, if you get into it, that it's not all just fun and sunshine. There's a lot that goes into house flipping and making sure that you make money.
Yes.
You could have fun, but then at the end when you're ready to sell, that's when it might not be as fun if you had too much fun.
It's true. It's like I was talking to one of my clients this morning, and he was telling me about the last 7 or 8 flips he's done. And I said, how do you like it? Is it going well, and stuff? And he said, well, this one, and the one that stuck out to him the most was the one he lost money on. So that's how house flipping works. You can do good a decent amount of time, but if you have one bad one, it sure puts a sour taste on the rest of them, too.
It sure does. Oh.
Yep. So it's not easy, no matter how many times you do it. But it is something that, for the right person, works really well.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yep.
But no matter who you are, you can definitely lose money just as well as you can make money.
For sure.
So what would you say would be your number one point about house flipping?
Well, let's see. Let's talk about the number one point for buying the house.
Okay.
Because I got a lot of different points that I'd like to make, just observations I've seen. But say you're considering buying this house to flip it. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you need to take into consideration the value of what it could be. That's the whole game is how I can hopefully buy it for less, do my work, and then sell it for a lot more.
Yes.
My number one thing would be get that house inspected by either yourself or a contractor or a home inspector, and go to town on that thing. Do not buy the house if you haven't been in the crawl space, if you haven't looked in the attic. Unless you want to deal with mold and rotten joists and stuff you didn't know about and weren't budgeting for, do your research on the actual house itself, not just the market value of what it could be, but actually the structure of the home. And is it a good structure, or am I going to have to replace significant parts of the structure.
Yes, definitely. I want to tag onto that and say something that I've ran into multiple times with investors is they have a realtor that they're trying out. Maybe they don't know them very well or don't know a lot about them, and they want to try them out. So they'll ask that realtor how much the house will be worth once it's fixed. And they've gotten themselves in bad positions because the realtor has said numbers that are quite a bit higher than what they should actually be. And then once the person gets done fixing it up, they can't get out of it what they were told they could get out of it. So my first thing would be, just like what Ethan was saying, how you buy the house would be, make sure you have a realtor that you're comfortable with, that knows the market to tell you roughly what it'll be worth. And it may not be exact, but roughly what it's going to be worth when you're done, and not just tell you what you want to hear, because that can be a bad situation at the end.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like we're going to have a lot of points here. I think we could probably make this into 3 or 4 podcasts.
Probably.
You got another one?
Sure. Yeah, let's tag onto the inspection part. So always get it inspected one way or another. I mean, if you feel like you know everything you need to know, you do all the work, you have all the experience, that's fine. Then inspect it thoroughly, like Ethan said. I'll give you one example of one that I had myself. Was a flip that I bought, and I didn't have time to do the inspection, so I hired an inspector to do it for me. And I was really concerned about the crawl space and the floor joists. And he checked it, and he said there was 3 rotten floor joists in the house. So I was fine with that. Put in an offer, got it. We got to tear it into it, and every floor joist in that section of the house was rotten. It wasn't just 3.
Oh, no.
So that was one of those cases where I did pay somebody, but somehow they missed it. It was hard to see something.
Oh, man.
And it ended up being a lot more expensive than what it should have been. But at least I had an idea that there was some issue, instead of not getting it checked out at all and feeling like I was completely blindsided. You know, so it helped me a little bit, but it was a little bit off on
what you were expecting.
What I was expecting when we got into it. So, but always either check it out, like you say, yourself, or have someone check it out good. Because you cannot see everything that's wrong with a house by just doing a walkthrough. You have to inspect it.
Yeah. So just like you were saying about the real estate agent, you also need if you're not the one inspecting, get somebody that you trust, not somebody you're trying out. It's a bad bad one to try something out of.
What do you think next?
Yeah, so another thing that I think is a big deal to house flippers that they don't always think about is the time it's going to take to do it and to sell it. And the reason why this is a big deal is because a lot of people finance either the purchase of the home or sometimes even the work itself. They finance everything. And when you take 6 months longer, which is not unheard of, 6 months longer to finish that house, that's 6 months of interest that you are paying. And if it takes 6 more months to sell it, which is also not unheard of, there's a whole year of interest that you might not have been figuring on. And interest will add up really quick on a $200,000, $300,000 house. If you're flipping it and you have a loan of that much, that interest payments are going to be, I mean, that could be all your profit margin right there if you aren't careful. And with that, sometimes I will see people who will try and do all the work themselves, like Trent was saying, to save money, but they don't take into consideration the time it's going to take. And if they do it themselves and they save $5,000 for doing it themselves, whatever it is, but it takes 3 months longer than it should have, you might have just lost your savings. And you might be you might be in the middle of winter now when you're trying to sell the house versus when you could have been selling it, in the fall. So you got to think about the timing, and just because something's cheaper but it might take longer. It's not always the best case scenario. You
Yes.
sometimes want to pay the amount up front to get it done quicker
Yes.
than you are trying to save a few pennies by prolonging the process. So the timing is something that I feel like
Yep.
a lot of people don't take into consideration.
Yes, definitely. And going along with that, I feel like from our experience that when you do your figuring on a flip, your numbers need to be based on hiring somebody to do everything that needs done. Because just like Ethan said, you're going to run into things that take longer than you think. You're going to run into things that may be harder than what you expect. And you have to get somebody to do those things.
Yes.
If you want to meet your deadlines, or if you want to get through a situation that you feel uncomfortable with, you're going to have to hire someone. And if you don't have that in your budget, then all of a sudden that profit margin that you had gets cut down really quickly. So don't ever think, well, I'm just going to do this, this, and this. I'm not going to add in the labor for that. Because you will definitely want that extra cushion in case you have to hire somebody and help you get it done. It's so easy to go over on things that you figured when you're doing a flip, that don't leave out things that you expected, and then find out you went over on other things and you had to hire on the things you already knew about, and next thing you know, you're upside down. So make sure you figure the whole project like you're hiring it out completely. And then if you can do part of it, great. That's just going to make you more money. If you can't, then you're not upside down on your budget. For sure.
Do you have... I was going to say, this is a really short point. In case you don't know this, you need a cushion. You have to have a cushion when you do any type of remodeling work, because it will never, ever be exactly to the penny what you estimated it would cost to do. So 10% is a good number. You can go high. Actually, that would be my base.
There you go.
Sometimes you want more of a cushion than that. But at least give yourself some sort of cushion in your costs.
Definitely. It's like when you're figuring your materials. Most of your materials, you have to figure at least a 10% cushion, because you cannot figure exact, because you're going to have cuts and you're going to have pieces you can't use. So you have to figure at least a 10% cushion. It's the same way on your numbers. You have to figure a cushion in there for the things you missed. Materials go up all the time. For the things that change in price, you have to have that figured in. Well, you don't have to, but you'll find out. You'll wish you would have if you don't.
For sure.
What else you got on your list?
There was another point there that I was going to talk about. You got something else? Okay, go for it.
I think along with that, it's the same with time frame. Like Ethan said, it always takes longer than you think. I was joking about not starting in the winter, but literally, if you want to list a house in March, and let's say you think it's going to take January and February and March to get it ready, then I would start in November. You always are going to run into things it's going to take a little longer. So if you think it's going to take 3 months, then give yourself 4. Or just, for instance, just give yourself a cushion in there, because it's a lot better to have it done a little early than it is be running behind and then you miss it because the weather turns bad, or maybe the market slows down, or kids are going back to school and people aren't looking near as hard as they were in the middle of summer, whatever be the case. Give yourself a cushion with the time, just like you do with labor and materials and all that.
I know one thing that I was going to mention too with that. Well, actually not with that. It's kind of separate. The decision-making process, if you're thinking about buying a house or property to flip, and you are running all your numbers, doing all your calculations, one thing that, at least this might be just for me, but one thing that I run into on my own self is when you're analyzing the numbers, you can get excited about the deal. It can sound really good, and you can figure out a way to manipulate those numbers to make it look like, yeah, you know what, we're going to make money on this. And I'm just caution, don't do that. Like, don't try and pad the numbers so that I think I can make money. Maybe you're talking to your spouse. Be honest about the numbers. Make sure, and there are deals out there where you will make money. And you don't have to force it so much that you're, on a spreadsheet trying to, if I lower this 1%, yes, we're going to make, $10,000 if we can get that just right. Don't do that. Don't be honest with the numbers. And there are deals that you have to make a quick decision on. But I guess it's just case-by-case basis on how you make decisions. But for me, if I'm ever rushing into a decision and I don't take the time to pray about it and have a peace about it, especially with my wife, if I don't take the time to pray about it and we both have peace, it's normally not a good thing that I'm just rushing in to make that decision. And it takes 10 minutes, to just, do whatever it is you need. Write a pros and con list if that's what you need to do. Like, whatever you need to do for your decision-making process, don't skip over that just because you don't want to miss out on this deal. Because it doesn't always crack up to be the best deal.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, and normally, like Ethan said, if you're married and you have a spouse involved in the situation and they don't feel like it's a good deal, more than likely you better not do the deal. Yeah. Because 9 times out of 10 it'll go wrong.
Yep.
And then you'll hear a lot of "I told you so."
That's right.
So don't do something on your own just because it's perfect when the other one says, no, this is not a perfect deal. Because there's usually a reason why they feel that way. So work together on those things.
For sure.
And there you go again. Make sure that the contractors that you use know what they're doing and have experience, because they can cost you a lot of money in the way they do things or in the time that it takes for them to get things done. Either way, and it can end up going the wrong direction on you. So always make sure that you have good contractors to do your work, and stay on top of it. Make sure you communicate well and work through the process. I feel like we bring up communicating well about everyone, but that's a big key with all this.
Yes, for sure. We always talk about if you're a customer, communicate. If you're a contractor, communicate.
For sure. So what else you got on your list, you think, for flips? Or should we just cut it short, because we could go on forever about flips?
Yeah. Well, the price, I think we talked about that. Giving yourself a padding, making sure that the price you're going off of is a good realtor came up with that price, or somebody who knows the market came up with that price. One more thing. Whenever I'm looking at the numbers and I'm saying that because that's mostly what I do with house flips, I look at the numbers. I don't actually get out there and flip the house. When I'm looking at those, it just went right out the window. Hang on, it's coming back. When I look at those numbers.
He does it though. When he's looking at those numbers,
I look at them.
He does.
Oh my gosh.
It'll come back around. But I think that so many people feel like flipping homes is something that anyone can do because it's on TV, and they say how much you can make and this and that. And honestly, if you get right down to it, you can make money off flips. But don't think the very first home you buy, you're going to get rich off of, because that's normally not how it works. You may be able to make some money. You may lose some money. You never know. It depends on how prepared you are. But don't go into it thinking, well, everybody that does this gets rich, and we won't have to worry about it, even if we make a few mistakes. This and that. We've had ones where we had just the exact amount of money left that I thought was going to be profit, and we got down to the end and we had to put a new well and a new septic in, and that's exactly what I had, and so we broke even completely. So you never know what you're going to get into, and that's one of those things that should have been checked out better originally, and was not, but yet it was too late by the time we found that
Yes.
detail out. So
Yes.
don't think that it's definitely a get-rich thing, because it's not.
Yep.
But it is a fun way to earn some money if you do everything properly.
Yeah, and to that point, you know, a lot of times when people do flips, they're spending their weekends, their evenings doing this, and maybe it's more fun to work on this. But you also got to think, what is my hourly rate that I'm actually making if I'm, looking at a $10,000 payoff at the end, hopefully. Like, I spent all summer and all my weekends and all my nights working on this thing. Like, could you have not just worked overtime at your job and made enough money that was $10,000? Like, find out, what is my hourly rate actually going to be?
Yeah.
And maybe I should just pick up some extra hours at work if that's really what I'm needing is money. And it's a lot safer if you get paid an hourly rate. I remember what I was going to say.
Okay.
Always have a backup plan. Don't go into it because the market might crash. Who knows? The market might crash. Things might cost way more than you thought they were going to. There's so many variables that could go wrong that you have to have a backup plan. If you go into a flip without one, you're just begging for trouble. So what I was going to say was, whenever I'm looking at the numbers and analyzing a flip, I always think about, okay, once we're all said and done and we have this much into this house, which is what we're hoping it's going to cost, can we rent this house? Can we make a profit? Can we go ahead and get a loan, finance the rest if we need to, the whole remodel and the purchase of the house? And will our rent pay for those payments that we're going to have on the house? And if it doesn't, that's a red flag to me of, okay, if we get into this and we're can't sell the house for some weird reason, we can't even charge rent to cover the payments, and that is not a good place to be. So that's usually what I would say would be a good backup plan. Do you have other points there?
Yeah. No, that's a good one. When we done a lot of that, we always tried to have 2 backup plans. So we had to have 3 options. And the first is fix and flip. The second one would be fix up and rent. And the third one would be, what else can you do with it? Can you turn that house into a duplex if a single would not work? Can you turn it into an Airbnb if you can't turn around and sell it? You got to figure out what your options are. So you at least want 2 options, but I always preferred the properties that had 3 that would possibly work, because then you're just making sure you have a little bit of security there all the way around. And you always have to think, even if I'm going to sell it or rent it or whatever you're going to do, if I have to carry this for 3 to 4 months once it's done, can I afford that?
Yes.
Because there's a good chance, even if you're going to sell it, you could carry it for 2, 3, 4 months after you get it finished, and you can't be so strapped that you don't have the finances to pay for it for that amount of time. So yeah, definitely have yourself a little bit of a safety blanket, if that's what you want to call it.
Yes.
For those situations.
Yeah. Do you think we're painting flipping in a in a glorious light? I feel like I think we're being more honest.
Yeah, I feel like the TV done enough glory for it. Now we can get into reality.
Yes.
And there's so many people, and there's certain areas that honestly you cannot, with any common sense, fix and flip a house right now, because prices are just so high on ones that need a lot of work.
Right.
So you have to use wisdom in these things. You can't just think, well, there's fix and flips everywhere.
Right.
This is the cheapest one in our area, so that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it'll work just because it's the cheapest house in your area.
Yes.
For sure.
No, there is money in it, obviously, and I love the fact that people who go out and flip homes, they're turning, neighborhoods, they're taking that ugly house in the neighborhood and making it something that's like the neighborhood can be proud of.
Yeah.
And they're helping restore small towns that have a bunch of rundown buildings. Like there's definitely, I like that part of flipping houses. There's a reward to it, not just monetary.
Yes.
But you have to just be smart about it.
Yes.
And don't run into it thinking it always works out on the show, so it probably going to work out for me.
Yeah, that's right.
There have been lots of people who have tried to flip a house and got halfway in and either had foreclosure or had to try to sell it. Mm-hmm. And that happens, so.
That's exactly right. Yeah, you definitely have to do your research, and you have to have a little bit of a cushion in case things do not go exactly as planned.
Yes. All right. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Nope, I think that's good for now. Just be wise.
Yes.
When you're flipping.
Yep. Oh, I know another thing. Really quick. You can also get creative with your financing. If you're worried about that loan, you think all the numbers line up, but that loan is really making you nervous. Bring in a silent partner if you have to, who can help finance or at least agree to help carry that loan if it can't sell.
Yes.
They're going to help make those payments with you. Of course, you're probably going to be losing a part of your profit, but you're also losing a little bit of your risk. Mm-hmm. So if that's what's worrying you, then that's another idea. Get creative and have people come and do it with you.
Yep. There's always ways to get financing depending on how much profit you want to share.
Yep.
Definitely.
That's right. All right. Well, thank you for listening to the Contractor Files. If you are flipping a house that has a kitchen or a bathroom in it, you are going to want to download our app, which is going probably by the time this podcast is out. It's hopefully on the App Store and Google Play. But if not, you're going to have to sign up for an account anyway. Go to myestimatingapp.com and you can sign up for an account there, and it's going to help you tremendously in estimating kitchens and bathrooms.
Go.
Yeah.
Or you could buy a house, fix and flip it, and then you could use that money to have your kitchen or bathroom remodeled once you see how much it's going to cost.
There you go. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So really the opportunities are endless.
There you go.
It really comes down to you do need our app though in the middle of that.
That's right. Thanks everyone for listening.
All right. Have a good day.
Thank you for tuning in to our podcast. Be sure to share this podcast with your friends and family. To ask us any questions that might get answered in our next podcasts, please visit our website, thecontractorfiles.com. Have a great rest of your day.